Good morning. My name is Katie Green, and I'm a candidate in the Educational Administration program through Lamar University. Right now, I am a 7th grade English teacher in Louisville ISD, which serves around 53,000 students. This is my 5th year teaching, and I've been fortunate enough to hold various leadership positions at my current campus. Through all of these experiences, I found that I have a love for leading, and so I've decided to pursue further education because of my interest in administration. With the direction of my professors at Lamar and my current administrators, I hope to learn how to effectively support students and staff along with being a consistent leader in my building. I looked at the TAPR for the 2015-2016 school year on my campus, Killian Middle School. During that school year, there were a total of 929 students in grades 6 through 8. The student ethnic makeup is about 8% African American, 26% Hispanic, 36% white, 0.4% American Indian, 29% Asian, and 1% 2 or more races. The student socioeconomic status is as follows: about 25% economically disadvantaged, 75% non-educationally disadvantaged, 13% English language learners, 2% of students who have received disciplinary placements, 33% are at risk, and about 8% are labeled mobility. At Killian, there are about 81 total staff members, and the ethnic makeup of the faculty is as follows: about 3% African American, 8% Hispanic, 86% white, and 3% Asian. Looking at the teachers on my campus, about 5% are beginning teachers, 49% have 1 to 5 years experience, 22% have 6 to 10 years experience, and 20% have 11 to 20 years of experience, while about 4% of teachers have over 20 years of classroom experience. For the 2015-2016 school year, an academic area of concern for students was the 7th grade math scores. And a cultural concern among students is that the demographics of teachers at Killian do not reflect the demographics of the students. For my leading video, I chose option number 1, which was to lead a focus group. I had a group of 5 teachers sit in a classroom and discuss their thoughts on professional development. Of those 5 teachers, one of them teaches 7th grade math, another one teaches both 7th and 8th grade math, 2 teachers teach 7th grade English language arts, and 1 teacher teaches both 7th and 8th grade English language arts, along with coaching cheerleading. They all have various years of teaching experience, ranging from 1 to 7 years, and I chose them. I chose them because of that, because there was a varied years of teaching experience. I had a prepared list of 11 questions about professional development that the teachers were able to access before we sat down and discussed as a group. As expected, there were a lot of different opinions, and so I had prepared follow-up questions to the original ones. I chose option 1 because as the school year comes to a close, professional development is a topic that is on a lot of teachers' minds right now. We've been signing up for summer learning courses, and I think all teachers have high hopes for what they will get out of the sessions. As a participant in this program, I have had to construct a professional learning plan, and I thought that hearing the thoughts of teachers on professional development would be helpful for me as I continue my education to be an administrator. The meeting was held on May 25th, 2017, during the PLC time for both the 7th grade math and English department. I asked teachers to look over the questions that I had prepared for them before coming to the meeting. When they were at the meeting, I displayed the questions on my board so that when I asked them the questions, they also had a visual to refer back to. I also allotted for extra time with each question, considering the diverse group that I had and the different opinions that would come up. So I set a timer for myself and for the teachers. They knew that they had 30 seconds to jot down their thoughts, questions, responses, opinions to the question. Then we started with one teacher who got 30 seconds of uninterrupted time to discuss their answer to the question. Then we opened up the floor for the rest of teachers to discuss, ask questions, or reply to the original response. To assist with time management, other than setting a timer, I made sure to keep the conversation on topic and refocus the conversation when needed. Like I said, the teachers were able to preview the questions before we met so that they would have an idea of how they wanted to answer. The teachers were provided pens and papers to write down their thoughts during the discussion, and then I took their notes at the end just to keep for my own documentation. I hope you enjoyed the video. Okay, this morning we're going to be having a discussion over professional development. So if you could just take a few seconds to introduce yourself and tell us what you teach and how long you've taught.
Megan Stinson, I teach 7th grade ELA. This is my 5th year.
Taylor Bailey, I teach 7th and 8th grade ELA. This is my 3rd year.
Erica McFarland, 7th grade ELA, and this is my 4th year.
Sharon George, 7th and 8th grade math. This is my 7th year teaching, and I'm a math department head, and I just graduated with my educational leadership cert.
McKenna Baxter, 7th grade math, teaching for 1 year.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a few questions. I've prepared 11 questions. I'll put each question up on the board for you. You'll get 30 seconds of think time, so you can jot down your responses or your thoughts on your piece of paper. And then we will start with Megan. She'll get 30 seconds to share her thoughts and ideas. And then we'll open up the floor for about a minute for everyone to respond or ask questions and just discuss. And then we'll move on to our next question. Do y'all have any questions? All right, let's get started. So our first question is, why is professional development important? Have about 10 more seconds to plan. Do you want more time? Okay. Okay, Megan, whenever you're ready, we're going to give you 30 seconds of uninterrupted time. The floor is yours, and you can give us your thoughts.
Okay, a couple things I jotted down. Basically, I think that it's important because it not only helps us improve ourselves as teachers, but I think the biggest thing is like we're constantly learning something. Whether that's something new that the district is pushing out, or it's a new, something that goes with our curriculum, it's something that we're learning in a way to improve ourselves. Because you don't want to remain the same, you don't want to be doing the same things over and over again, because we're teaching our kids how to kind of keep that growth mindset, and we also need to have that growth mindset.
Okay. Do y'all want to add on to that? Do you have any questions for her? Your own ideas?
I agree with her. I think that professional development is so important because there's always new research and new resources. The education field is growing and changing all the time. So we want to make sure that we don't fall behind on all the new cool things that we can use in our classrooms.
I mean, I've only taught 4 years, but even in the 4 years, I've changed so much. And I think it's important so that you don't stay stagnant in like your strategies and your tactics and how you handle lessons and all of that. So I think that's important. Plus, you get to hear new ideas, I feel, from other colleagues, especially when you get in professional development settings where you have different campuses, because they might do things totally different, and so you kind of learn different ways of doing your lessons. So, yeah.
That's a great point.
I agree with all of that, and just to add on to that, I also think it's important to build our campus culture and our climate. Just as a future principal, just thinking about my own campus, if everyone on our campus doesn't have that same sense of culture, it's really important to kind of just reiterate and let's work on this. Let's even to model something like that, I think is really important. So
yeah, I agree with you guys too. I think that no matter how many years of teaching experience you have, that there's always room to grow and improve. And along with what you said about the collaboration piece, every teacher has different strengths, and so you might be going to something that your colleague might not be interested in, but you might learn something that's useful to help that colleague too. So I think it's great for collaboration as well.
Totally.
Awesome. Okay, our next question. What makes professional development enjoyable for you personally? Give y'all 30 seconds to think. Okay, Taylor, you're gonna start, so whenever you're ready.
I enjoy professional developments that are pretty hands-on. I like to be able to discuss and collaborate with my peers. Just like my kids, if I have to sit and listen and focus, that's hard for me. I like to learn about new things that are relevant, especially to my subject area, but relevant to my campus, whether that's cultural proficiency or something like that. So that's what I enjoy.
Awesome. Okay. Anyone else want to add on to that?
I don't know, I like there to be some depth, so I don't want to just be talked at, I want to kind of play with it and be able to process it and talk about it, especially if it's something new. Because if I'm expected, especially to use it, whatever it is that they're implementing, I want some time to be able to see what maybe pitfalls are or any questions I have that might come up, so.
Yeah, and I feel like that's some of the things that I'm frustrated about is like they want our classrooms to be truly engaging and, have the kids engaged constantly, but then our presentations that we get are just like, hey, it's, it's not like, show us the way we need to be versus just tell us this is how you need to be.
Sure.
And then I love like when our professional developments are like, cross-curricular, like where we can actually talk to other teams and just get some great ideas, because sometimes when it's just math, it's kind of like we're in this like math zone, but then there's so many great ideas out there, so I really love that.
Yeah, I like when it's active and like for instance, I know some of these social studies and their PDs, they actually get to go to like courthouses or museums, and they really get to be in that environment of, this is kind of along with the curriculum. And so I think for other content areas, it'd be nice to actually have more real world examples and not just sitting in a room and listening to a presentation. I also like the diversity of being able to choose like what you get to go to, whether it be just like the basics of something, because some people might not be on that level, versus like the more advanced PDs. So.
I put very simply, realistic is greater than idealistic. I don't like when they give us this idea, it's very abstract, it's very, we were thinking about this and those people haven't been in the classroom. It really bugs me when it's this big idea that they haven't thought through those concrete details and they kind of leave it up to us, like, well, however you want to do it in your classroom, but it's like, I need ideas, I need somebody to kind of like, I need to process it, I need to talk to somebody about like, how could I implement that in my class? So
That's I was waiting for someone to say realistic, because like for me, I want something realistic. I want to be able to say it's realistic for a group of 30 7th graders to sit in a class and do this activity and understand the content. I don't know if everyone was here when LASD did that book study for the energy bus.
Yeah.
Was everyone here for that? Okay. No. Okay. So the message of the book was great. I think sometimes like it was a little cheesy, but I loved doing the book study as, and maybe that's like the reader in me that's loving that. But I just thought that was such a great, just a great way to learn. And maybe it's because I'm thinking as a future administrator, but like one thing that they're telling us is you just need to be reading lots of different books that you can apply to yourself professionally. So I love that. And I've heard some other people in the district said that their campus will do that, and they'll get hours for it. I would love to do more of that.
book studies,
Yeah, that would be great.
So I just think it's so cool, and like kind of like what you said, it helps with culture, and everyone's reading the same thing, and everyone might not agree agree about what they're reading, but at least everyone's
You had some great conversations. out
right.
there.
Everyone's
Yeah.
heard the same ideas. So, okay. Anything else y'all want to add on to that question?
No,
Okay. So what types of professional development would you like to see more of? Is there something that you wish LASD would offer more, or maybe something that they haven't offered that you've heard of other districts doing that you would be interested in? About 10 more seconds.
No, I think I'm good,
Okay, Erica, whenever you're ready.
Okay, so when I attended the TCEA conference, I fell in love, we fell in love because McKenna was there, with the escape bus. We were just all over it. We're like, this was so awesome, and they said it'd be great for professional development, and I was like, yeah, I would. So, I don't know, some thinking outside the box, because with that experiment that we went through, it was so heavy on communication and teamwork, and it was just a great and creative way to do some more team building. I feel like there needs to be some buy-in, just like with our kids. There needs to be some buy-in, and you need to be able to know the people that you're talking to, and I think you'd be more respectful when you're sharing things and ideas because you know where everyone's coming from. But it was just really great. So I don't know, just something outside the box a little bit. And also just speakers. I know Megan, you kind of touched on, we kind of want other teachers to tell us, like, what are you doing? What are you an expert in? I mean, there's even some people on this campus that are certified for certain things, and I had no idea. Like, there was, I can't remember which teacher, but she's like, yeah, I'm like a Google expert certified, whatever the heck that is. And I was like, that's awesome to know, because then I can go to you for that. And so kind of making our teachers more like leaders on certain expertise that they have.
Yeah.
And using us as a springboard for sessions and like creating something.
I like what you said about like maybe not so much content focused professional development, but a little bit more like team building and communication, collaboration, working together.
So we expect our kids to have those kind of 21st century skills, so we should be still like bettering ourselves in those as well. I said the opposite of you. I said more content area, and I kind of touched on McKenna's when she said that his history gets to go to courthouses and things like that. That kind of sparked something in my head of how fun would it be for ELA to go to a poetry slam, to go to a writer's circle where they're talking about how they write, or a play, or getting to meet an author. Something where it's real world connections, and we can see somebody's passion and we can implement that into our class. I just think that would be so cool. We're kind of stuck in this sitting in a room, listening to a teacher, lecturing. Even with speakers, I do like inspirational speakers, but for the most part, we're expected to sit and listen, and then we're told, don't you dare do that in your classroom.
Well, and like, what's the first thing what's the first question when you get to professional development? What time is lunch?
Right.
You know, I mean, that's horrible. That's obviously not
I want to
the
be
point.
so engaged that I'm like, I haven't eaten in 7 hours.
It's not gonna happen.
Realistic.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I said for math, I've been to some really great trainings. I used to be in Dallas ISD before, but we had like outside, like people from other states come in and just say, we're gonna send you on like this 5-day training, and then it was like now the PDs are just so crammed. They're like, okay, we have all this stuff to get through, but we only have 6 hours, so we're gonna just shove everything down your throat, and then we're like, okay. Like, we don't get anything, so I wish it was longer. And on the other hand, I know there's a lot of training out there, like Region 10 and other regions that do great ones, but we don't get a lot of exposure. Like we don't even know about it and stuff. So there almost needs to be like better communication, maybe from the district, just saying, they're checking out these awesome trainings, feel free to sign up if you'd like. But right now it's just like LISD stuff. And then the other thing I said was just, you know, we have cultural proficiency, like you said, but it's only a few hours.
Yeah.
And our district is just so diverse. There's so many teachers who have no idea about so many things, and it's just like mind-boggling to me, just because I'm from India and I'm exposed to a lot of culture. So it's just, I wish there was more of that as
Well, and
well.
like you said, we only have 6 hours, so when we do talk about cultural proficiency, it's surface level,
Uh-huh.
it's quick, it's you make sure you're doing it in your classroom. Okay, now let's move on.
Yeah.
So we're not going into the depth that you're talking about.
Exactly, and I think if you ask the teacher, like, tell me the ways that you're making your classroom culturally proficient, I think the majority, and it's not, I mean, it's no one's fault, but I think the majority of teachers would say, I have no idea, you know, just because we're not getting enough of that kind
Well,
of
and
stuff.
I kind of feel like I don't even know who's in my class. Like,
Right.
I don't know. I loved the training that we did at the, I don't remember when we did it, but about all the cultures at Killian and like what's respectful and what's not,
Oh,
and
yeah, that was
how
fun.
to, yeah, and I felt like I learned a lot about my kids and that I might be doing something that I didn't even know could be construed as disrespectful or something like that. So I agree, and I'm a team building person, so I would love to see more team building,
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
communication, people.
Yeah. Do you want to add anything, McKenna?
I mean, the only thing I wrote down was team building because I was also going to talk about escape the bus. I almost wish we could have done something like that at the beginning of the year because I think it's important as a department and as a team to have, you know, a relationship, a close relationship, and learning how to communicate. And that was fun too. You know, we were actually active and thinking and doing something versus just sitting there and being told what to do. So I think that more hands-on and active PDs are very helpful.
Yeah. Do y'all remember when we went to, it was one time, we've got to do it one time, and I know that there's some other schools on the other side of the district that do this every summer, but when we went to main event,
Yes.
that was so much fun. And like, really and truly, I think everyone kind of went like with their person, you know, that you're always with at school, but just to see your coworkers in a completely different environment is a learning experience in and of itself.
Well, you don't have a goal. You don't have a learning goal. You don't have something that you need to talk about like a field trip.
Yeah.
So you're able to like relax and just enjoy each other's company, which
Yeah.
builds relationships.
Right.
And I feel like LSU tried that with, what was that, the big race, or what did we do?
Oh, the
Amazing Race.
The Amazing Race, but it was like, everybody,
I don't want to think about it.
I mean, like, the
Yeah.
idea was good, but it was everyone that we don't really know. So
Right.
it's like, it's hard to kind of build
It was too
anything.
big.
Yeah,
It was
it was
too
too big. It
Yeah.
would have been more condensed, like,
Yeah.
maybe just,
With the
Within
with our
your
school.
campus.
Yeah.
Within our
It
campus
would
would
be
be great.
great.
Just around our school to do a scavenger hunt, or even like within the neighboring communities.
I was gonna say,
going to
like,
our going to our kids' neighborhoods.
Yeah,
would be
the kids'
neighborhoods.
so fun. They would be terrified that we were out there.
Our first year when we got to drive through where our kids live, that was awesome too.
Yeah.
It was
We
really
had never
motivating.
done that before, and I think that was
My
our
first year.
third year.
Yeah.
Right?
It
Or
was
was
my
that?
first year.
Yeah.
it
And
was
like,
our first year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, and
For
like
sure.
even being here for 3 years, you know, you kind of think you know about the neighborhoods, but actually going into them was really eye opening and awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to our next question. So we're talking more about PLCs, which we just started here. So what do you, at Killian, what do you think would make your PLC more effective? And you can think of the word effective as however you want. Okay, Sharon, you can go ahead and start.
Okay, so this topic is, I almost want to like sit this one out just because, you know, as department head, we had to be the ones to initiate PLCs on campus. So for me, I really would like to hear what everyone else has to say, but my biggest thing is buy-in. I think I just want to create more of a buy-in of why we do this, why we need to do this versus we need to do this. Like, you have to do this, just suck up and do it. I need more buy-in is what I think is going to be really important.
I'm obviously new to the whole PLC thing. I guess from my experience, we just used it as planning lessons, and I think it's important to have more collaboration in the sense to like analyze data and see, oh, well, she might be teaching it this way. I need to do this too, or like see where the strengths and weaknesses are versus like through the different teachers, I guess. Again, I would rather hear y'all's ideas because it's new to me, so I'm not so
Well, it's
sure.
interesting to hear a first year teacher's perspective too.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's new for at
All
least
of
people
us.
who's been at
Yeah.
Killian because we've never done PLCs.
Yeah.
At my
True PLCs.
At my previous school, we did it once a month and we got half a day. And I felt like it was a lot. It was a lot. I also put on here the way that we do it now once a week for 80 minutes is also a lot for me. I would like to break it up into maybe smaller chunks of time, more times a week. So maybe meeting twice a week instead of the once a week for a shorter amount of time. I also put in my perfect world, I'd love to meet with all of ELA.
Yeah.
Get to talk to 6th grade, get to talk to 8th grade, see what they're doing.
Medical.
Yeah.
I know the one time, and I guess it was an unofficial PLC, when we did the star data and like we looked at everything like for writing and stuff. I felt like we left with, we took time and looked at the data, and now here's how I'm going to implement new changes in the classroom. And so just like almost having like goals. Okay, I'm looking at all these numbers, but what, like having a focus and a little more of a structure in that sense that I need to go in with some kind of mindset. What is my target? And so like for us, it was, well, they're going to be doing, writing star and revising and editing. And what are those hot points that we need to talk about? What are those topics? And then we did, in fact, implement that in the lessons that we taught thereafter. And I felt like we saw some improvement. And we felt like,
100%.
yeah, and we felt like our time was well spent in the PLC as well as in the classroom because we were being intentional. So
I put data, period. It was great to learn how to analyze data because when I hear math people talking about data, I'm like, what? As an ELA person, but my brain does work that way. And going in and looking at star data from last year, that was a great way to learn how to do it. Of who got most of that question right, who missed it, who was split, and looking at what was that teak and kind of figuring that out. But I next year would really like to apply that to classroom as well. Not just looking at star data, but like bringing in writing samples and even just like short answer stuff, like our little EQs that we do and stuff, our interpretive responses, quizzes, tests. It was nice that we put our midterm online
That was nice.
because we could see that, and I kind of want to start doing that more because it's so easy.
Morning, Mustangs. Please pardon this interruption. At this time, would all Circle of Friends going on the field trip please be released and sent down to Miss Merritt's room. All Circle of Friends attending today's field trip, please report to Miss Merritt's room.
Sure. So
Okay. It's okay.
the training that we went to was just so good because not only is it looking at data, there's so many other protocols where there's like tuning and stuff, so you can evaluate like an assessment that somebody has created, and like you could not even just with your department, you could have like science people and math people and whatever take your test and like be able to see, well, this doesn't make sense to me, and you can be like, well, I never thought of it that way, and things like that. And I just feel like if teachers also had exposure to what those protocols look like, I think it'd be even better than just department heads going and just saying, well, this is how we do it, and this is what you need to
Are they
do.
planning on sending us?
They're gonna send team leaders.
Are they just sprinkling people and eventually everybody will go to
I don't know if everyone's gonna go, but I know that they're gonna send or they talked about sending team leaders, but like this summer in service, like we're gonna kind of train y'all
Got it.
over that. But kind of going along with those protocols, something that we talked about those 3 days of training was really for PLCs to be effective, we need time. And not time in the sense of we need to meet for 90 minutes once a week. We needed this year to figure out, okay, what does it look like for the 4 of us or the 3 of y'all to sit down and meet?
Oh my god.
And then, and so now we kind of know what that's like. And so then, maybe next year we give ourselves until December to say, okay, we're gonna try a different protocol each month. So yeah, that's kind of all I wanted to say on PLCs is we just really need time, and I don't think admin really expected us like the first time to sit down and analyze our midterm data and then make a goal. But at the same time, it was kind of like, okay, y'all have PLC time, like get together and meet,
And there was no like, this is what it is,
Right.
this is what you're supposed to do with it, which is, I like to be told. This is what
I
you
need
do.
explicit direction.
Yes.
Yeah. You want to add?
Yeah, something just came to my mind. So when I was student teaching, the school that we were at, they had a class period that was PLC every single day, and it was all of the whole department together. And so what they would do is they would say, today is 6th grade's day, and so 6th grade would pull up what they were about to learn, and then the 7th and 8th grade teachers were in there to like help them say, oh well, then they're
That's
expected
cool.
to know this in 7th, they're expected to know this in 8th.
Teachers, please pardon this interruption. We are working on a sound system this morning, so you may periodically have music in the rooms and the hallways. I apologize for that. We are trying to get ready for this afternoon. So please excuse the noise, and I apologize. Hopefully we'll get that done as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Okay.
I love that idea.
Yeah, that is
You can
great.
tell our admin about that, please.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Okay, so now switching to team, which I'm sure y'all don't really have a ton to say.
Because basically perfect.
Yeah, because it's run like a well-oiled machine. But if you, in a perfect world, if you can make any changes, or if you wanted things to be more effective, how would we do that? Okay. This is a safe spot.
I'm gonna judge you silently, but
No, we're not.
just kidding.
Well, again, with this being my first year to have team time, I guess coming in with, having such a big team, I wish beforehand, like, we could have done a team building thing. Like, I wish I could have gotten to know you guys better before, coming in and just talking about classes and students and stuff. And so I just wish that there could be, like, more stronger relationships between teams. That's my only suggestion.
Okay, awesome.
Well, coming from like what it was last year with having 2 teams and then trying to communicate between the teams, I felt this year was way better. I think the agenda is awesome, and like following the agenda so that we're not like wasting time. Setting up the norms I thought was really good too this year. Overall, I think it went much better than previous years, so I liked it a lot more. I agree with McKenna. If we could all like come together,
Summer.
and get to know each other outside of work.
Yeah. We were actually talking about when we met up with Kelsey, I mean Christina for Kelsey's birthday. I think you had already left, but Dibble was talking about his daughter, and I had mentioned to him like, I can't picture you like in dad mode, because I see him as a teacher and as a coach, and so I was like, when he's like, she's coming this summer, I was like, that'd be so fun if we all just like got together and like, if you have kids, you bring your kids, and because like as far as building relationships, like to see people as like a mom or a dad or a husband or wife or whatever, it's just different than seeing them every day. So that would be really fun.
I want to be a part.
Okay.
I'm not gonna be on your team.
You're anyone else?
Yeah, I said, and I don't know, like, right now it's team is like, we do like blah, 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 like it's like a to-do list almost. And I don't know if we can make it more PLC oriented, just because we see team more than we do departments. And So it's just, there's so many great ideas just on our team, and maybe sharing like, this is the best practice that I do in my class that works so well for me. And, you know, I don't know if we can have like a day set aside for that. We don't do that every day.
Yeah.
But you know, just like
Good
it's
idea.
just,
It's a really good idea.
Just like sharing lessons and stuff.
yeah, sharing lessons, or this is what I do in my class and it works really well for me, you know. Just pick one thing that works really well for you.
Yeah.
Something
Sort
like
of
that.
like a mini brown bag, you know.
Yeah,
Type
yeah,
of
just
thing.
anything.
It's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's what I was thinking. I just put literally like teacher involvement, and I think it's just because like we don't want to. I mean, the team leads are there to lead us. However, I feel like we all need to play a part in the team and bring something to the table. And so, doing maybe something like that would help kind of highlight our strengths in a
Yeah.
sense, because where I'm weak, someone else can be in my team picks up that slack. So.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyone else?
I just said and I'm guilty of this too, but I feel like a lot of the time, because team was so big, there was a lot of people checking out and doing individual things, which I sometimes did too. I answered an email, or I forgot to take a roll or whatever, and so a lot of the time we didn't have 100% just like participation or anybody like listening, and that got really frustrating because if we're talking about a kid and only 2 teachers are listening and 4 teachers have the kid, it got to a point where I was like, I need like get off your computers or whatever. And those are those norms we talked about. This is our first year to really set that up. This is our first year as a big team. So there's a lot of like what worked, what didn't work, what do we need to do next year. I like these ideas of team building, and also we do have some gaps where we're not working on a field trip, we're not working on awards, and we have that time that we could be filling it with something positive or some teacher highlighting kind of thing. So that's good to know.
Yeah.
Something I'm going to take for next year.
Awesome. Oh, okay. So professionally speaking, what areas are your strengths?
Can I write for 4 minutes?
So think about answering this question as either, a teacher, a team member, a colleague, a department head, team leader. Did I already say that? You know what I mean. Megan, I'm going to go ahead and stop you. And you are going to share first. You have 30 seconds only.
How can I possibly? So I started with just my teacher strengths. I think the 2 things I do well is I'm really good at planning and executing. A lot of people come up with great ideas. I'm not really the idea person. I'm more of, I can take an idea and I can break it down and I can put it into practice. I'm really good at that. With being more of a leader in a leadership position, I think one of my strengths is that I'm very to the point. I don't like wasting people's time. I don't like, flowery language or talking a lot. I'm going to tell you what you need to know, even if that's through an email. And I don't do it rudely. I'm short and to the point. I'm curt. But I don't like when my time is wasted, so I like to put that also to other teachers. I don't need to just have this long conversation with you and then finally tell you what you need to know. So,
Okay.
I guess with me, I focus on relationships with my students, especially. I feel like that's one of my strengths is in the classroom is getting to know my kids and really understanding who they are as a person. And I feel like that helps me as a teacher being able to teach these kids once I know who they are outside of school, outside of the academics. And as far as the team, I feel like I contribute to the team by taking minutes. I think I'm really good at it.
so good at it.
I've had a lot of training in my minute taking abilities. Yes.
We're going to miss you next year.
I'm devastated.
Sorority paid off somewhere. So, and I feel like I always try to do where I can, and
Definitely.
so I feel like those are my strengths.
Awesome. My team, especially LA, would know I like taking risks. I we'll try new things. I will dive in if I don't even have all the answers, and I'm like, let me see how it goes. And they'll say, yeah, let us know how it goes, and then we'll fix it.
That's very true. It's so great.
So I do. I go with the mindset, if I'm bored, then my kids are totally bored. And if my first probably year or two, I was really hesitant about if something wasn't working. It felt awkward for me to tell the kids, like, oh, I messed up, like, let's stop. Now I'm to the point that I'm like, I'm trying something new, this may not work, so I feel like honest with the kids. I'm pretty transparent about, we're gonna try this, and if it doesn't work, I may not do it again, and that's okay. And so I think that helps me when I'm taking those risks, because the kids know that we're all learning, and then it gives them an opportunity to like tell me what they notice. And so I feel like I'm pretty good about also getting feedback from them. And then I have a lot of hats at Killian, and so I feel like I try my best to compartmentalize things and organize things and keep everything kind of in order so things don't fall through the cracks. So I think those are my strengths.
You can share yours, and if you need to go after, you can
Okay,
go.
great. I said, as a teacher, I don't know, I think classroom management is one of my strengths, just because, again, I started in Dallas and I had to be extra hard or like go home pretty much. It was just so when I first got to Killian and when I just saw kids just like milling about and nobody's watching them, I'm just like, what's going on? It's like freaking me out, but kids are fine here. But so classroom management, I think I'm a little hard with the kids. I always start out really hard and I kind of, ease up a little bit towards the end of the year. And then I think I'm also really good about making all my math lessons really relevant, because the kids are always like, how do I use this in real life? So I have a good way of really like connecting that for them. And then as department head, I don't know. I think I'm just kind of organized, and I have like a to-do list, and I kind of go through that, and then that kind of makes, life work. Otherwise, I think I'd go crazy. Yeah.
Like Erica, one of my strengths is trying new things. I think that growing up and even now, I feel like math is a lot of people's most hated subject, and that kills me. And so I, as a teacher, I almost like take on the challenge to always look for new things and to try to make it fun. And I just like to try things and see how they go, and then what that's shared to other people. I am also big on relationships too. I think I'm pretty good at the empathy part of being a teacher and kind of being that counselor that comes along with being a teacher too. And then as far as a team player, I am dependable, and when somebody asks me to do something, I do it. So.
Thanks. Okay, well, I think that's the perfect way to end our discussion. Thank you so much for your time. You have no idea how much I appreciate it. So thank you. I hope you have a great day.
Thank you.
I'm glad we didn't go for weaknesses.
There are none. This is what I would read off of.
Thanks, G.
I hope you enjoyed the video of our discussion over professional development. I'm now going to analyze and reflect on the whole experience. For the most part, my agenda was followed during the discussion. I had originally prepared 11 questions, but we only got through 6 questions, which surprised me. After I asked each question, I gave the teachers 30 seconds to prepare their responses, so they could jot down any notes that they had or any thoughts on a piece of paper that I provided them with. But they actually didn't need all of the 30 seconds that I gave them, and I think that's because I sent them the questions before we met, and so it seems like they didn't need the 30 seconds to think, because they looked at the questions and they came to the discussion prepared. Additionally, teachers were given 1 minute to discuss the question as a group, but I actually found that they needed a little bit more time than 1 minute to really get their point across. And to my surprise, everyone wanted to speak for each question. I feel like the objective of the meeting was met. So I went into the discussion with an intention to gain an understanding of each teacher's opinions over professional development in our district, and they gave me great feedback. I feel like each teacher was very thorough in their responses, and I also feel like they were honest while remaining professional. And I really think that that's going to be so helpful to the campus when we plan future professional learning days. My group was small, consisting of 5 teachers, which I think lent itself to a productive conversation. Because there were only 5 teachers, I feel like everyone was actively listening to each other, and they provided, they provided affirmative feedback to one another. In fact, after the discussion was over, we all commented on how it was really nice to hear the opinions of others, and I think that everyone, including myself, appreciated a structured and a professional yet honest conversation. Overall, the whole experience was wonderful. I feel like each teacher was engaged in the conversation and they were happy to express their opinion. I think that's what happens when you get a bunch of teachers in a room. They all want to talk about their opinions and their thoughts, which is great. Additionally, the discussion was very structured, and I think that's because, as I mentioned before, the group was small and it was very manageable. But the teachers also took on some of that structure themselves. So, for example, after I asked a question and one person would speak, I told them, I'm going to open up the floor and everyone can just kind of jump in and say whatever they want. But I found that they each took turns and they went in order of the way that they were sitting. So I didn't tell them to do that. They just kind of took that structure upon themselves. And that was, I really appreciated that structure. I just think that after being in the classroom with 7th graders for 5 years, I'm used to whole group discussions being loud, and usually you end up with people talking over one another. And so sitting in a room with professional adults was just very different than having a group discussion with 7th graders. And so I think that's why I was surprised at some of the structure, although I shouldn't have been surprised. If I could change anything, I think I would have gotten a bigger group of teachers. While I like the manageable aspect of having 5 teachers, and I think that they did a fantastic job, I think that having a bigger group would have given me more opportunity to truly lead a discussion. With the group of 5, I felt at times I was part of the discussion instead of acting more like the facilitator. So again, if I could change anything, I think I would have liked to have had maybe 10 to 12 teachers. I think that would have been a good sized group. I was surprised at how much each teacher had to say about the questions that I asked. I thought that they would give me a 1-sentence response to each question, but I found that they had a lot of thoughts. Again, going back to my experience of having a whole group discussion kind of stops with being in the classroom with my students, and so I was just really blown away by how much effort they put into their responses. And that let me know that professional development is so important to teachers, and they really value and they pay attention to the type of learning that goes on in these sessions. And I think just like our students, when they walk into a room to learn something, they have really high expectations and they want to make good use of their time. That was really my takeaway from this discussion is, teachers want to learn in a creative way. They don't want to sit and get, which I think tends to be, that's what happens when you are in some professional developments. And I even think some teachers would be okay with that, but these teachers in the discussion kept mentioning they don't want their time to be wasted, which I agree with them. Participating in this conversation over professional development will help me so much as I plan professional learning opportunities for my staff when I'm an administrator. I learned that they want the sessions to be interactive. They want it to be realistic and innovative. They also, which I thought was really interesting, a few of the teachers, I think 4 out of the 5 teachers, mentioned that they would appreciate some professional learning opportunities to just team build and get to know their colleagues. It doesn't always need to be content related. And I thought that was a great idea. And I don't think they meant, we need to go bowling or do anything like that, but there's some great strategies that we could spend half of a professional learning day on, that would really help with communication skills. They even mentioned some cultural diversity, cultural proficiency training just among the staff members, which I think is a great idea. In addition to learning about the teacher's views on professional development, this video activity led me to understand that I should have really high expectations of my teachers. Like I said, I went into this discussion thinking that the teachers might not be prepared, or maybe they would do the bare minimum. When I asked a question, maybe one person would feel like they had to talk and that was it. But they far exceeded my assumption, and I'm so glad that they did. They were passionate about the topic, and they each wanted an opportunity to express their opinions and their beliefs. Overall, this was a very valuable learning experience for me. Just like the 2 other videos that I've done, I've appreciated the opportunity to get to work with teachers of various experience, grade level, and subject area that's different from my own. I really appreciate that these videos have let me branch out from my teammates or my PLC, and getting to talk to teachers who maybe I wouldn't have normally talked to in my everyday of teaching English language arts. So I very much appreciated that. And this activity was a small way for me to see what it will be like to have a professional conversation with my colleagues, which I very much enjoyed. Thank you for taking the time to watch my video, and I hope that you enjoyed it.